Are you flexible or adaptable? Welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name's Graham Wilson, and today in my basement, I'm going to be talking about how you can become more adaptable, not necessarily flexible. I don't know. I'm getting less and less less flexible the older I get. Got to keep doing some stretching and stuff. But yeah, so I was thinking the other day about what makes a good pilot. And a good pilot is adaptable, but not so adaptable that they can't follow the rules when it's necessary. So I kind of figured out that the best thing for being a pilot, or best thing for anybody, or just having a good life, is having that balance. There we go, like, kind of like a yoga flexibility balance there in your life, is yin and yang. But yeah, you got to have that little that certain amount of balance to be a good pilot, or how to manage your own life, because you know, the older I get, the things change on you. You know, hey, the cars that you buy now, they all have a bunch of computer jazz. Like it's not a dial and a gauge; it's just a computer screen that looks like a speedometer or something. All this stuff changes on you, and then depending on how well you can adapt to that change, how adaptable you are, it'll depend on your quality of your life or your flying. So, yeah, so how do you, I kind of got my little cheat sheet here because I do like to take little notes and then I become adaptable after that. I kind of mix it in, right? And so it's like I kind of asked the question to myself and to you, like, how do you react to change? Or, some people are very, very afraid of change. It's like you get stuck in a rut and it's easy to do. You just kind of do the same thing day after day after day after day after day. And then the idea of doing something a little bit different is like, whoa, hey, that's kind of scary. I don't know if I want to do that. And if it goes, the longer you do that, you get set in your ways, the harder it is to break out. And some people never can, or if they do, they freak out. So there's that. Or do you really enjoy uh, lots of change in your life? Or is it just kind of you're like most people? Well, I don't really like to change, but I'll deal with it if I have to. Yeah, that's another way of thinking of it too. But so I'll kind of all right, I'll cut right to the chase. Do little things. Okay, bye. No, that's it. But I'll kind of tell you why doing the little things is important. Yeah, so here's a little story about a student, and I'll try to keep the student super anonymous because, it's kind of student instructor confidentiality. You don't want to say anything too not really bad about a student, or it could be embarrassing. So we'll keep it nice, and we will say this student is a real perfectionist. Okay, and I was handed this student. What happens with students a lot of times is they don't necessarily stay with the same instructor through all of their training. Instructors kind of come and go. They move off to the airlines. They go to another job. They do this and that, or sometimes it's just the student wants to try a different instructor, or the instructor says, man, I can't handle this one. You take it, Graham. And I'm like, okay. But I'm very adaptable, and I'm very good at being an instructor because of my adaptability. But one of the things that with the student that I was handed, I noticed that now the student was quite along in his training. So the student was always looking at a checklist, like a little homemade little cheat sheet, like my little cheat sheets, and those are good at first, but eventually you have to break away from the cheat sheet and actually kind of be able to adapt things in your head. So we were about to take off, and this person was reading some very standard radio phraseology to the control tower. And at this stage of the game, that should have been memorized, internalized. But if you're always reading something off of a cheat sheet or a checklist, it doesn't get in there, and it doesn't. Your ability to adapt isn't quite there because you're constantly referring back to your checklist or your cheat sheet or something like that. So I thought that was weird, and so I thought, let's just see how the student does. So I just grabbed the tower control tower, said something back, And like it should have been something like real easy, like Roger, cleared for takeoff, something easy like that that you'd say, lots of times before. I just kind of grabbed the cheat sheet off the kneeboard, and the student just went deer in the headlights, like, and just like totally like not really freaked, but yeah, I was not a happy student at that point. And I thought, okay, well, we got to kind of get going here and give the cheat sheet back. Boom, reads off the cheat sheet. And then the rest of the flight was a total disaster because I just set the student off. Anxiety level was all over, and the student thought I was some kind of like some really mean instructor. And I was just kind of, the first flight with the student, kind of figuring out where they're at. And obviously, okay, we got to work on that. So, and I'd never seen a student freak out so much just by just like, hey, yeah, let's see what you can do. Most students will be like, all right, and then they do it. Or I tell them, you can't. You can. You. A lot of times, I would tell students like, there's no mistake that you can make that I haven't seen before or done myself worse. So, like, I kind of bring their stress level down that way. Nah, the student was way off the rails. So okay. So how can I get this student more adaptable? And so, just like everything that when you're learning how to fly, you get taught in little bite-sized chunks. So, okay, let's just say for the next flight, we're gonna get rid of, or you could even test them. What would you say if I said this? And then, but don't, before you're in the airplane, even, oh, I just say, yeah, cleared for takeoff, runway, whatever. Okay, well, how about we do that when we go out there? Oh, okay, let's try that. So gradually, I was introducing the idea that you don't have to read everything and you don't have to be perfect for every flight. It like something might be good enough and totally safe, but it's not perfect. As long as it's good enough and it's safe, that's good enough for everybody. And like, I don't know, if you're a real perfectionist, I've seen perfectionist students there. They're not necessarily the best. They need a little bit more adaptability. And by the time I was either reviewing the student or testing the student, or because I used to be a pilot examiner too, and that's one of the things that, as an examiner, you are trained to test the adaptability to new situations of candidates that want to get their pilot's license. So if someone can't deal with change at all, then you can't give them a pilot's license. They're going to go kill themselves. Like, oh, I planned at this altitude to go flying here. Oh, but there's a whole bunch of storm clouds. Well, it's what I planned. Into the storm clouds I go. And no, you can't do that. So it's like you got to be able to test for those things. So anyways, yeah, little by little, we kind of removed bits and pieces of the cheat sheet, and to the point where, yeah, the student ended up being just fine. And now I think this last I heard, the student was working at an airline where there's all kinds of checklists and rules and procedures, which I'm sure feels fantastic to this to this student. But the student did meet the criteria that I wanted for the student, just to be adaptable enough to fly safely. So I'm sure if there's an emergency, that student will do just fine. And at least I hope so. Well, that student would probably be like, there should be a checklist for this. And then they'd probably be fast at looking for the checklist and go, oh, wait, there is no checklist. I'll remember what that long haired hippie instructor told me. I will do this. So, anyways, how do you want to? And so, like, say it's in your own life, you're in a rut. You're like, I know I'm in a rut. How do I get out of this rut? Just change one little thing. So with the student, I was just removing little bits and pieces of the cheat sheet. Okay, start with the easiest ones. Okay, everyone knows how to say Roger, Roger Dodger, 10-4, good buddy. Everyone knows how to say that. So maybe you start with that one, and then that's easy. And then you do something else that's easier and easier. So what do you want to change up your life? Put in another spoon of sugar in your coffee. Like, what? That's stupid. Yes, it is, but it's different, isn't it? And so all these little things that you can do, uh, when you're driving home from work or something, take a different route on the way home. Instead of taking the highway, you're in no rush getting home. Well, I'll take the 2-lane road, or anything that you can do to slowly introduce that idea of change, and then you won't be reliant on just the same thing all the time. So if there is a big change that happens, no big deal. You've already exercised that adaptability muscle in your brain, and you'll be able to put new connections in your brain together and solve problems better and everything like that. So it's yeah, how do you become more adaptable? Little by little. And what else can I tell you here? Oh, another thing that helps with that too, because that little change for learning how to fly or something like that, it could be you got to have a certain amount of competence too. That I was thinking that if you, so when I first stole the little cheat sheet from the student didn't quite have the competence or the practice of just speaking on the radio without the cheat sheet. So that's why the anxiety level went up, the performance level dropped off, and this person had a bad flight. So yeah, so as the competence of them speaking on the radio increased, I could take off more and more and more, so that the person could just kind of freeform freeform talk on the radio, I guess, if you want to call it. Yeah, so maybe if it's something very new, then maybe you don't want to be too drastic about your changes and stuff like that. If it's something you really know, what's a good example there? um well, I don't have an example. Whatever, it's Monday. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah, just figured I'd do a little, yeah, just a little thing, little show on, okay, if you want to change something, you're stuck in a rut, and I'm repeating this over and over again so you get it. Just me change some dumb little thing, and then another dumb little thing. Or another thing I was thinking was, if you like making lists, usually people that are really stuck in a rut and they like everything all organized. Well, organize yourself a list of, make a little calendar or something like that, and say today, or list of a bunch of little things like I'm going to, instead of eating my cereal with this size spoon, I'm going to eat my cereal with this size spoon. What? You can't do it? Yeah, it's dumb. But all that little bit. Will you still eat your cereal? Yeah, sure. But will you feel that anxiety if you're eating with a different spoon? Maybe. But it's a lot better to have that little tiny anxiety eating your cereal, and you made the choice to do that too, and that'll give you a little bit of control over what you're doing, and that control over the situation and less fear of the unknown, that lowers your anxiety level. So you do that, hey, and now after a month you've developed some competence in being able to change your world around you for these little things. Maybe do something a little bit bigger. Maybe you think of a goal you want to do and make little changes towards that. And once you get your goal, you feel good. So, anyways, there you go. There's your life advice on the Super Pilotish channel. And I got no one in the chat here today, so I'm talking to myself. So, whatever, we'll keep it short. No one's watching as usual. Whatever. Actually, I usually get people in the chat, but I think Mondays, are usually a slower day for me for that. But I don't care. I'll just keep doing it. I'll do whatever I want. If I want to do a long show, I'll do a long show. If I do a short show, it's going to be short, guys. There we go. And yeah, that's about it. Pick away at all your little your little things that you want to do, and become more adaptable. There we go. That's all I got for you. Okay, so today is Monday, so I'll be back on Wednesday, because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern, and I will shut this down for whoever is watching and maybe not in the chat. So even if you are watching and you're not in the chat, thanks for watching. Okay, we'll shut her down. Bye.